All right, Stephen, you are good to start.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Welcome, everybody, on this beautiful sunny day over Woolwich Township. Before we start the meeting, I would like to read a land acknowledgement. The land on which we meet has been here from time immemorial. People have inhabited southern Ontario for about 10,000 years, and we acknowledge the neutral people called an Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee. People who lived here when settlers arrived and who share this land with us. May we together learn to care for and respect each other, our flora and fauna, and the land we inhabit together. I will remind the committee and members of the public that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. Anyone who is registered to participate in this meeting will be invited to speak in the order of applications being heard this afternoon. I will now do a roll call of the committee and staff for the benefit of the public watching the meeting. When I call your name, please wave at your camera and say either here or present. I, Stephen Hartman, am here and present. Committee members and staff, committee, Tim Cronin,
I'm here.
Linda Dixon,
Present.
Chris Fletcher,
Present.
Jeremy Karn,
Present.
planning staff, Sherwin Maloney, Stephen Dykstra,
Present.
Victor Labreche.
Present.
Okay, as Aaron Wetzel, Assistant Secretary Treasurer,
Present.
and Nancy Thompson, Secretary Treasurer.
Present.
Okay, now I will provide a brief explanation of the procedure of the meeting. Each application will be read by Aaron, and she will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation, not exceeding 5 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who is registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address the application, either for or against, will then be given the opportunity to speak as well. Please make sure you have turned on your microphone and video and identify yourself clearly for the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once discussion on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off the video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain and listen to the balance of the applications. Each applicant or each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act in accordance with Bill 23. Appeals may only be submitted by the applicant, the municipality, certain public bodies, or specific persons as defined in the Planning Act and the minister. The last day of appeal for the applications heard today is March 19th, 2025. At this time, I will ask if any members of the committee are declaring a pecuniary interest or conflict with any of the applications being heard.
No.
Hearing none? Okay. So let's move forward with the first application, Aaron.
All right, first up tonight, we have minor variance application A1 2025 for David and Irma Horst. The property is located at 3778 Arthur Street North and is zoned agricultural and contains a single detached dwelling, accessory buildings, livestock barn, and manure storage area. The applicant is proposing a 1,388 square meter addition to the existing livestock barn and is requesting the following reductions to the calculated minimum distance separations. To 3781 Arthur Street North, from the calculated separation of 214 meters to the actual separation of approximately 142 meters between the existing manure storage pit and the dwelling located at 3781 Arthur Street North, and from the calculated separation of 126 meters to the actual separation of approximately 90 meters between the proposed livestock barn addition and the dwelling located at 3781 Arthur Street North. For 3818 Arthur Street North, from the calculated separation of 214 meters to the actual separation of approximately 105 meters between the existing manure storage pit and the dwelling located at 3818 Arthur Street North, and from the calculated separation of 126 meters to the actual separation of approximately 59 meters between the proposed livestock barn addition to the dwelling located at 3818 Arthur Street North. For 3843 Arthur Street North, from the calculated separation of 214 meters to the actual separation of approximately 164 meters between the existing manure storage pit and the dwelling located at 3843 Arthur Street North, and from the calculated separation of 126 meters to the actual separation of approximately 113 meters between the proposed livestock barn addition and the dwelling located at 3843 Arthur Street North. And for 3859 Arthur Street North, from the calculated separation of 214 meters to the actual separation of approximately 190 meters between the existing manure storage pit and the dwelling located at 3859 Arthur Street North, and finally to 3860 Arthur Street North, from the calculated separation of 214 meters to the actual separation of approximately 152 meters between the existing manure storage pit and the dwelling located at 3860 Arthur Street North, and from the calculated separation of 126 meters to the actual separation of approximately 113 meters between the proposed livestock barn addition and the dwelling located at 3860 Arthur Street North. A portion of the existing barn is proposed to be demolished to accommodate the new addition. And on behalf of the applicants, we have Andrew Head from Dryden Smith and Head Limited to speak to the application. Andrew, you can go ahead.
Great, thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Head from Dryden Smith and Head Planning Consultants. Mr. Horst is unable to join me today because he's doing his chores, as he so quietly put it to me. Mr. Horst has retained us and is looking to seek to expand his barn or farm operation to increase his dairy operation from 60 to 80 cows. This expansion required an MDS separation update for the calculation for MDS2 to assess the potential impacts of the surrounding residences. Our analyst indicates that the current facility's MDS reaches 188 meters. So the existing barn and the manure storage, the worst case scenario is 188 meters. With the expansion to the new barn, which will then impact currently it's the 188 meters is impacting 4 of the 5 neighboring residences, if you could refer to the map. With the proposed expansion, the MDS ring will reach 214 meters. So we're seeking an increase in the stink ring, for lack of a better term, of I think it's 26 meters in total, which will then increase the impact to 5 houses in that general vicinity instead of the existing 4. We've assessed the proposed variances against the 4 tests of the minor variance, and our findings are as follows. Is it minor in nature? That's one of the first test. Yes, the increase from MDS of 26 meters to impact something that's only 12 meters away from the adjacent house is relatively small and minor. Is it consistent with the surrounding area is the second test. And yes, the area is predominantly rural and agricultural. Is it consistent with zoning and the official plan of the final 2 tests? And it is agricultural related as well. We have read the staff report and they're making recommendation to approve. I am of the opinion that the MDS report and the MDS document was written for other people for nuisance complaints instead of the surrounding communities that are impacted by farms on a daily basis. And this is very minor in nature, and I'm seeking your support on this. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Head. Any questions of the committee to Mr. Head before we get an overview from staff? Nothing at this point. There may be then. So staff, who's speaking for staff? Please go ahead.
Everyone. Staff has no comments. The report speaks for itself. I just wanted to note that this is considered is the opinion of staff that this is considered minor in nature, given that the existing barn is existing, the existing dwellings are also currently there, and the barn is taking measures to to be built, the addition to the barns being taken measures to be built further away from the existing dwellings. And that's all I had to say for that.
Okay, thank you, staff. Okay, at this time, committee members, either questions to staff or to the applicant themselves. Member Dixon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I think I understand it, but I was reading it a few times trying to sort through it. So just with respect to the report, Sherwin, and there's the two conditions for or not conditions, but the 2 points for approval. You've taken and summarized all of the 5 that Aaron just reviewed in the opening remarks, correct? Where it says 59 to 113, that's not. So
That's correct.
That's got, okay. All right. Took me a while, but okay. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Any other questions at all from committee members? Okay, seeing none, how would committee like to handle this application? Member Dixon, I see your hand.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I move that minor variance application A1 for 2025 for David Horst concerning the subject property municipally addressed as 3778 Arthur Street North, which is requesting relief from section 6.3 of the zoning bylaw to permit a reduction in the minimum distance separation MDS2 for first a livestock facility between 4 existing residents on Arthur Street as well, and that reduction would be in the order of between 59 and 113 meters, whereas a distance of 126 meters is required. And with number 2, again, relief from section 6.3 from the minimum distance separation MDS2 for the 5 residents on Arthur Street in proximity to the subject property. The reduction would be between 105 meters and 190 meters for the existing manure storage facility, whereas a minimum distance of 214 meters is required be approved.
Okay, thank you.
Second that.
A seconder, Member Cronin?
Thank you.
You've seconded that, so we do have a motion on the floor. Any discussion from committee members on the motion that we have? Okay, not seeing any hands, so I'll call the motion. Those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Head.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, Aaron, next application.
Next, we have minor variance application A2 2025 for Elizabeth Brubaker. The property, it's vacant land adjacent to 421 Catherine Street North. It is currently zoned agricultural and is vacant land. The applicant is proposing to construct a new dwelling on the property and is requesting the following: a reduction to the calculated minimum distance separation from 123 meters to approximately 58 meters between the new dwelling and the existing livestock facilities located at 421 Catherine Street North. A reduction to the calculated minimum distance separation from 123 meters to approximately 78 meters between the new dwelling and the existing manure storage facilities located at 421 Catherine Street North. And a reduction from the required 180 meters to approximately 21 meters between the new dwelling and the existing on-farm diversified use woodworking shop located at 421 Catherine Street North. The applicant is also proposing to construct a new livestock barn on the property, which will meet the calculated minimum distance separation of 39 meters between the new livestock barn and the existing dwelling at 421 Catherine Street North. And again, to speak on behalf of the application, we have Andrew Head. Andrew, if you'd like to begin on this one.
Great. Thank you very much. Earlier today, just a couple hours ago, we actually met with staff, with Mr. Victor Lebreche, Mr. Sherman Maloney, as well as and Nancy Thompson. And at this time, we're requesting a deferral because it's come to light that what was considered to be a decommissioned barn has not been considered for MDS at this point in time. So we're looking to have this deferred until we can sort out the details of that barn and what is actually in the barn, if it is a decommissioned barn, because we're currently unclear of its stance. And if that is the case, then we would be seeking another minor variance application to recognize the MDS variance required on that property. So at this time, we're asking for a deferral for us to have a little bit of clarity on what is going to happen with that barn that is across the street. Is it going to be decommissioned, which would be one portion for us to find out. If it's not to be decommissioned, then we have to find out if we'd have to submit a second MDS minor variance to recognize its location. We understand that the farmer across the street is an agricultural farmer and he does cash crop, and that they've been doing so for about 20 years. I have reached out to that owner, and we will be in conversation with them in the very near future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Head. Planning staff, would you like to give an overview?
I think Andrew said it. I agree with a deferral at this point. And for no further comments.
Okay, so hearing that, any questions from the committee at this point, either to the applicant or to staff? They're asking for a referral or deferral based on information received just today. Okay, not seeing any hands. I see a hand now. Member Cronin, are you making a motion?
I'm prepared to make a motion for a deferral of minor variance A2 2025 for up to 6 months.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Member Fletcher, are you seconding that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Is that motion suitable to staff at this point from what came to light today?
I would say an answer to that question, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's suitable to staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Alrighty, any further discussion at all on the motion from committee? No. Okay, those in favor of the deferral? That is carried. Okay, so we'll see this application again in approximately 6 months. Thank you very much, Mr. Head.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, Aaron, our third application this afternoon.
So our final application is for minor variance application A3 2025 for Mad West Breslaw Limited and Woolwich South Holdings Limited. Properties are located at 231 Woolwich Street South, 110 and 118 Menno Street, and 33, 37, and 38 Maters Lane in Breslaw. Current zoning are residential zones R5A, R6A, and R7A, open space O2, and there are site-specific regulations from section 16.272 for vacant residential subdivision lands. The applicant has received zoning and subdivision approval for development of the subject lands and is requesting the following variances. All lots with the R5A zone are requesting permission for an interior side yard setback of 0.6 meters, provided the total distance to the abutting residential lot is not less than 1.2 meters, whereas a minimum setback of 1.8 meters between adjacent dwellings is required in sections 7.3 FI and 7.4 D of the zoning bylaw 24/2024. And within the R5A, R6A, and R7A zones, they are requesting permission to reduce the internal minimum width to 3.0 meters for a single car garage that is used to satisfy the required parking for the residential use on the premise, whereas a minimum width between 3.35 and 5.5 meters is required for the garage for a single car definition in section 3 of the zoning bylaw 26-2024. And on behalf of the application, we have Matthew here from Polo Corp to speak to the application. Matthew, if you'd like to begin, now is your time.
Great. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. And Ms. Wetzel, first for the introduction of the application. My name is Matthew Wierzek. I'm a planner with Polo Corp here today on behalf of the applicants, Mad West Breslin Limited, as well as Woolwich South Holdings Limited. We've had an opportunity to review staff's report, which I think was very well crafted and clearly outlines the proposed variances, including how and why they came about through detailed design. With that in mind, I don't think I have a lot of additional information that I need to add this evening. I will, however, take the opportunity to thank staff for working with us in identifying these two minor zoning deficiencies and then working with us to find pragmatic solutions to them. Just in regards to the garage width, we did go through some pretty extensive review of car sizes and door swings to demonstrate the functionality of the 3-meter width. I understand ultimately that staff they are satisfied with it, and that ultimately they are going to be carrying that through a township-wide housekeeping amendment to reflect that width for all single car garages. Similarly, the proposed building separation, it was identified by staff through the detailed design process and actually recommended that we go through this amendment in an effort to ensure that clear visibility triangles are ensured for each lot. This is in effect prioritizing driver safety and pedestrian over a strict adherence to the zoning bylaw regs. So with that in mind, and as I mentioned, we have reviewed staff's report and are in agreement with the recommendation, including the proposed conditions. And as such, I'm here today in support of staff's recommendation for approval. I know I've kept my comments reasonably brief, but if the committee does have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I call on staff to give an overview, please.
Yeah, just following up on Matthew there. Thank you very much, Matthew. Yeah, we noticed through the review of the subdivision that there was a couple of minor adjustments that need to be made. The applicant demonstrated through the images that are also attached to this report, identifying that 3 meters is sufficient for a car to park, as well as people to enter and exit out of the vehicle. Just for like a bit of a clarification for number one, for the interior side yard setback, the reason for that one is that so you can pair two houses a little bit closer, just in the event that for topography or for some other reason you want to pair them up a little bit more. It doesn't reduce the overall side yard requirements, though. The side yard requirements still remain at 1.8. It's just that you can sort of pair two houses a little bit closer, and then other houses could be further separated. So it's allowing just some additional flexibility for the placement of the houses versus a strict each yard must be, separated by a certain distance. So in reviewing that from an urban design as well as from an engineering perspective, we felt that was it'll look actually much better when on the streetscape as well too. So, yep. Other than that, the applicant's fine with it. So I think we're good to proceed on that one from the staff perspective, anyways.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions either for the applicant or for staff? Member Cronin?
And just a couple of questions there. First of all, this minor variance only affects the 6 addresses that are included in the recommendations there. So it doesn't include, subdivision wide or anything, right? At this moment in time, the minor variance is only going to affect 6 residents with this minor variance. For staff.
Through the chair to Tim, those 6 addresses encompass the subdivision itself. So it is for it's for a significant number of new dwellings that will be that are proposed in that subdivision.
Okay, so that the existing one, and there are only 6 addresses there now that the subdivision is making up. So we're including the whole subdivision by doing these 6 addresses.
Yeah, the 6 addresses are for that entire subdivision. So in a way, we refer to it as the Mad West subdivision. So for that whole subdivision, that Mad West subdivision, the original addresses were those 6 addresses. So and it also refers to the draft plan of subdivision 30T-20-701.
Okay, I just want to make sure that any motion we make reflects that this is subdivision wide and not just 6 addresses. I don't know how that goes on down the future, because those addresses are going to get lost with all the new addresses.
Yeah, but it does refer to the certain zones though, for like the R5A and R6A and R7A zones. So it's within those zones of that subdivision.
Okay, I'm not real comfortable with that wording, but I know Matthew's got a comment back on that, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you. I was trying to find the button to raise my hand and I couldn't quite find it. Just to add to Mr. Dagster's comments and to clarify, in regarding the building separation and setbacks, that provision will only apply to the R5A zones, and it's intended only to apply to very reasonably specific parcels. It's intended to address the end units on a block that sit perpendicular to rear yards, closest to the corner, if that description makes sense. What we found was that with the 0.6 meter side yard beside the rear yards, by the time you had the driveways and applied the visibility triangles, that corner started to become encroached upon. And so allowing for a 0.6 paired with a 0.6 side yard, we can flip the driveway over to the opposite side and give ourselves additional space and thus more visibility to the street for people backing out of the driveways. The intent is not to apply it throughout the entire subdivision, just within the R5 zone, and specifically on the end units perpendicular to corner lots and rear yards.
Well, just my follow-up to that, I get that and I understand that. I'm just trying to ensure that our recommendation and the minor variance we supply clearly, that anybody reading this down the road in a few years will understand that where we've gone for it and look for these lots. So if staff is comfortable with that and written in the subdivision, I got a problem. I'm just reiterating that we do that. Part of the other thing in that, I did read this someplace that we're looking for some easements, access easements over this property, and are they going to be handled like under the plan of subdivision if there's some easements required for this, or it doesn't have to come back to committee for easements on any particular lots?
Okay, staff?
Yeah.
So easements can be done through part lot control. Part lot control is completed through council. It's most of the time it goes through consent. There's really not much discussion on it. So it won't be coming back through the committee of adjustment. I know there are some easements that do go through a committee of adjustment, but by and large, these easements can go through it can go through either one, but I guess it depends as to actually how the applicant chooses to apply these easements. They can apply through consent, or they can apply through part lot control. It's really up to them. Yeah. So I'll let maybe Matthew answer this one, because he may have more insight as to what the applicant actually
works
did.
for me if we don't have to come back to it, so I don't need any more than that. If you've got a control on it, that's all worried about. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members regarding the application? Not seeing any hands. How would committee like to deal with this application? Member Dixon, I see your hand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will take a run at this, and given member Cronin's concerns about the wording, so I'm going to word it as such that I make a motion that minor variance application A3 2025 for Mad West Breslau Limited and Woolwich South Holdings Limited concerning properties in Breslau regarding draft plan of subdivision 30T-20701 to request relief from section 7.4 for the R-5A zone to permit an interior side yard setback of 0.6 meters, provided that the total distance between two abutting residential units is not less than 1.2 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum distance of 1.8 meters. And also relief from section 3 for garage definition of the zoning bylaw for the land zoned R5A, R6A, and R7A to reduce the minimum interior garage width from 3.35 meters to 3 meters for a single car garage be approved, subject to the 3 conditions as set out in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Looking for a seconder, Member Karn? Yeah, okay, seconded by Member Karn. So that, if I'm hearing that correctly, that was slightly different than what we have written in front of us. Did you get that, Aaron? Or is it? Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's good.
okay. I do have a hand from the applicant.
Did I miss something?
Go ahead.
No, through you, Chair. I'm just wondering if we can call out what the specific change was, just highlight that.
Yeah, what did I do?
Oh, I just didn't hear the street names specifically, but I
Oh.
might have misunderstood. Were they included?
She
No.
mentioned the subdivision draft.
Yes,
Draft plan
okay.
subdivision. If that's okay, Stephen, is that?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I think also, if I may, I believe that Member Dixon was basically just leaving out the addresses to sort of clarify that was for the whole subdivision versus associated with addresses, which I think was addressing sort of Tim's concerns.
That was my intent, Stephen. Thank
Good.
you.
I think we're all understanding that makes sense to me. Okay, good. So any further questions on the motion? Not seeing any hands. Those in favor of the motion? And that is carried unanimously. So thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess as a point of housekeeping, I'd like to remind the applications that the last day of appeal for all applications today is March 19th, 2025. At this point, that is the last application, correct, Aaron?
That's correct.
Okay. So at this point, then we move to approval of minutes. Has the committee had an opportunity to review the minutes as circulated from the previous meeting held on January 13th, 2025? And if so, are there any changes?
I don't have any. Very detailed.
Yes, yes.
Very good.
Okay, can I have a mover then, Member Cronin?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Okay, that they be approved. Thank you. A seconder for that? Member Fletcher? Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of accepting the minutes? That is carried. Great. Okay, at this point, nothing else, Aaron. I'll call for adjournment of the Committee of Adjustment. Member Fletcher, question?
Yeah, just to let the committee know, I am not here next month.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further before we adjourn? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.